Before we can start with our actual orthographic or technical drawing, we need an idea or a sketch, all right? And I will do a quick one here just as a basic understanding of what my process is for using technical drawing, all right? So a sketch in this case is going to be my idea, my concept. It's going to be pretty rough. It's going to give me an understanding of basic dimensions, basic shape, and that kind of stuff, all which will be verified or changed or tweaked during the orthographic drawing process, okay? That's oftentimes where I do a lot of my design work, is while I'm doing the technical drawing. I can shift things, I can adjust things because it's real, right? It's a realistic thing at that point. So at first, I'm just gonna draw a small ring, okay? This ring is going to be made with a construction method called hollow construction. So basically that means it's going to look like a solid mass, but it's going to be built out of flat planes, okay, in this case. It's a hollow construction, meaning it's hollow and not super heavy and dense, but it gives the appearance of it being a solid form, all right? So for this demo, I'll just do a simple drawing, okay? And I'm by no means the world's best sketcher, so give me a break here. Okay, I can do a little, but not a lot. Okay, this will basically give me an understanding of what I want to get out of this project. Okay, so it's a square top, all right, with a round base. All right, this round base is going to be equal to the ring hole, okay? And I'll explain that exactly with what that means here in a second, okay? So depending on who your client is, in this case I'm building this for my wife because she's my guinea pig when it comes to drawing and coming up with these crazy ideas. So I know her ring size, so I'm gonna go with that, which is just slightly under 3/4 of an inch. All right, this is looking kind of like crap, but it will make sense. Okay, so I need to further put some dimensions on this. Okay, so I completely understand what I'm going for. I would like roughly an inch and 3/16 of total height. Okay, so I'm going to go 1 3/16. All right, so that's my height. When I'm talking width here, let's go, 1 inch maximum. Okay, I'm keeping this open at this point because I want to be able to tweak and adjust things, because this sketch is pretty bad, but I understand in my head what I want. Once I start making this realistic, it's going to make much more sense. Okay, now we need a thickness. So I'm going to bring a thickness here. We're going to go 3/8 of an inch to 1/2 inch. Okay, this thing's going to be pretty chunky, pretty clunky. It's more of a kind of an artistic statement piece. All right. Now, you can see my proportions are kind of off because this ring diameter is, 3/4 of an inch. Okay, that means this section is actually going to be much smaller. Okay, it's going to be much shorter, but it's okay for this type of drawing. I would like at least roughly a 1/16 of an inch here. Okay, so that gives me this surround. Okay, that I have this little flat window here. All right, and what isn't shown on here that I'll draw in now is going to be this void. Okay, so there's actually going to be an opening on the top, and what I'm going to do is here's the ring from a side view. Okay, just as bad a drawing as the first one. And I'm going to set a chunk of some hand felted fiber in this. Okay, so it's going to have a nice soft pillowed look that comes out of the top. All right, so we got our 3/4, a 1/16 of an inch, our height, 1 3/16 overall. We got 3/8 to a 1/2 inch thickness, and we got 1 inch max in width. All right. The only other thing I'd like to note in here is my material thickness. So the material I'm going to use is actually around an 18 to 20 gauge metal, and that's going to give me 0.0312 in inches, or 1/32 of an inch. All right. This will help me understand exactly what I'm working with materials, because that is a limitation. That is something I cannot change. So I need to make sure that I'm putting in all those factors so that I understand what I can and cannot adjust. Okay, so there's our sketch, and shortly we will start our orthographic drawing. All right, see, now I have an incredibly precise reference, vertically and horizontally. All right, I'm going to position my view that tells me the most about the object dead center. Okay, think of it as the star of the show. So for this object, I'm going to choose this front view, is what I'm calling it, the front. Okay, so I can kind of mark this. All right, the whole object of orthographic drawing is to give me a precise idea of what every side of this object looks like. Okay, if you think about it like a dice. Okay, quite possibly the world's worst dice drawing. Okay, so we got the 5 side and the 1 and the 3. Okay, there's 6 sides to this dice. Okay, you know that, I know that, because we're familiar with dice, but I don't technically know that unless I draw left side, right side, front, top view, bottom view, and actually I don't have enough room on this page, but we'll do that back view here. Okay, that gives me 6 sides of that dice. All right, now depending on your object and how simple it is, your views are going to look the same, right? My front and back are going to be identical. My left and right are going to be identical. My top and bottom are going to be different because of the viewpoint, but I'm going to draw every view just so you guys get the understanding of how this works. All right, so I know from my drawing this thing is 1 inch wide. All right, so I'm actually going to use my T-square to bring up my ruler. Okay, and I'm just going to put just tiny little reference lines here. Okay, so that's my 1 inch. I basically went off my center line and I divided 1 inch by half. Okay, you're going to bring your pencil, put your pencil on the line and bring the square over, okay, or the triangle. Okay, what that does is it's really kind of hard to get the edge of this lined up right with that point. So I know if I line up my pencil on that point and I slide this over to it, it's going to be really precise. Now I drew those longer than they need to be, but they're also going to help me with my other drawings, with my top view and my bottom view, and you'll see that here in a little bit. All right, now I got my verticals set. All right, we're not going to worry about the round yet. We're gonna keep pushing that forward. Okay, now I need to establish where I want the center of my page to be, and I'm actually going to put it right on top of the finger hole. Okay, and I know this is 3/4 plus a 1/16 gives me 13/16. Okay, so I'm actually going to take my combination of all these things. I'm going to put this on one that I can easily read. Okay, let's do it like this. We're going to slide this up until we hit directly on that 13/16. Okay, that gives me my mark there. All right, so I know I have 13/16 from here to here. Okay, so what does that give me left? So I have 1 inch and 3/16 minus 13/16. I'm going to do math on here, which is hard. Okay, we're actually going to cancel this out, and we're going to go 19/16, which is actually going to give us 6/16. Okay, divide that in half, 3/8. Okay, so this is what's left. All right, did I do that right? I think I did. Math is hard sometimes. So we have 1 plus 3 is 19 minus 13 equals 6/16. 3 8s. Boom. Okay, not that much up top, but that's okay. All right, so we're gonna slide to a number I can read really well, and we're gonna go 1, 2, 3. Okay, right there, just a little tiny mark. And I'm actually, since I'm sitting kind of at an angle, I'm gonna come to the top. Watch me hit my camera here. Just a minor earthquake. I'm going to bring this down to that line and I'm going to draw that across. Okay. Now, while I'm doing this, I forgot to do it on the bottom, but I'm actually going to transfer that over. We can easily do that here. There. You'll see what's really great about the orthographic drawing style is I can spend a lot of effort on this central drawing, and it can tell me all the information I need to know for the other views. All right. So I know from here to here is 13/16. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to pull out my smaller, and actually I'm going to use this big guy because it's got my 3/4 inch hole on it. Okay, so flip it so you can read it. There's pretty small indications on here. Okay, so 0.75, you can kind of barely see it there. All right, if I line that up with my top, this is where you can start to see thicknesses. All right, so it looks like this and this are actually hitting the same line, but they're actually not. So I'm actually going to overlap this top line just a hair, okay, because my pencil line is actually going to be inside of this circle. All right, there's little crosshairs on here, so I'm lining those up with my center line, keeping everything nice and steady, and I'm drawing that circle in nice and clean. All right, it will kind of trick your eyes. This looks like, to me, it's just ever so slightly off center, but it's close enough for the sake of the simplicity of this design. All right, this distance is 1 inch. Okay, so I'm actually going to come in here with a 1 inch circle, and I'm going to lay that right over top, and I'm finding the same crosshairs. All right, and I'm going to connect there to there. Okay, so this is already starting to look a little different than my sketch, right? So we're seeing that actually on this, I'm creating this kind of smaller area here than I am here. All right, there's this tapered quality which I really like. So this is the great thing about this. I start with a concept, okay, and then I build in other ideas, okay, other thoughts and figures. All right, so this is what I'm really liking at this point. All right, I'm going to take a second and I'm going to erase back some lines here. Okay, I'm going to erase back these just enough to really kind of get an understanding of what my form's starting to look like. Okay, these aren't needing to be these precise, crisp drawings. Okay, if I was doing some sort of presentation with this, I would take a little extra time probably and make sure this was really crisp and clean. Okay, but for my purposes, I'm going to use this as a drawing to build this object. So all I need to really do is have all of the lines in place. Okay. Okay. Now, something I'm starting to notice about this too is this is pretty square. Okay. I would like to just create a very subtle curve on there. So what's nice about having this large scale circle guide is I can lay that right over top of my my ring drawing here, and I can see what kind of arc I want. If I want a steeper one, okay, I'm thinking pretty subtle, like almost so subtle you can't really even see it. So in that case, I'm going to use the biggest one I got, which is a 6 inch. Okay, I'm going to bring that down using my pencil kind of as a guide for where that can line up, and then I'm going to bring that crest over. Okay, really, really subtle detail. So with this object, since it's a smaller object, you know, subtle details like that, you know, really help the design a lot. Okay, you want to be careful because you don't want to create an immense amount of detail. in this if you're going for a very simple look. Okay, so now that I have my side view basically drawn, there's one other step that I'd like to do on this, but I'll talk about it now, but I'll incorporate it when I do my top and bottom view. Okay, it's basically bringing in a dotted line or a dashed line to show this internal component with this. And I'll show you that here with the top and bottom view. All right, we're gonna move on. The only other thing I need to incorporate with this is I added this line here. So I'm gonna bring that up and I'm gonna draw that across. Okay, so that is just my new line, and actually I drew that pretty poorly, so let's tidy this up a little. Must have slipped when I did this. That's not editing, that's erasing. Okay, so I'm going to bring my pencil line down on that, make sure it's very, very accurate, and then slide this across. This is where, depending on your angle, where you're sitting, you may want to use the bottom side of your T-square, okay, because it's getting difficult for me to see over this edge here. All right, so I have everything I need to do for my front view. Okay, now I'm going to work on my top and bottom view. Okay, so bottom is going to go here, top is going to go here. All right, there's something I like to do when I lay these out to make them look professional. Okay, make them look easy to follow. Is I'm gonna pick a dimension from here over in both directions. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to do the top view here, and I want to do the bottom view down here. All right, and in order to do that, I want to give myself some reference points. So what I've done is I've gone 2 inches up, and I'm going to come 2 inches down. Okay, those are going to be my new horizontal center lines for my top and bottom view. Okay, it's not necessarily, have to be this way, but I find that it makes your drawing look much more professional and easier to follow when you give yourself this nice spacing. All right, okay, so let's focus on the top view first. All right, if we bring our quick sketch back in, we want to see that we're 3/8 to 1/2 of an inch. Okay, now we're not talking about a lot of difference in width. Okay, 3/8 is here, 1/2 inch is there. All right, this is a big chunky ring, so it doesn't necessarily have to be the most comfortable thing, but we still want to think a little bit about the client and how this may fit on their finger. Now, I have smaller hands, but they're not as small as my wife's. She told me she wants to wear this on her index finger. So what I'm thinking about is the distance between here and here. Okay, so as I'm designing this, I'm thinking about the person who's going to be wearing it. You may not have the luxury of that, but these are pretty average sizes. Okay, so I know that, when I squeeze my finger, I got about 5/8 of an inch there. Now, if I go 1/2 inch, that's going to be pretty tight. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go 3/8. All right. In order to get 3/8, I'm going to line up this here, and I'm going to do 1/2 of 3/8. So 1, 2, 3/16. 1, 2, 3/16. Okay. Really easy math. If you take 3/8 and you want to divide that by 2, take the bottom number and times it by 2 equals 16. The top number gets times 1 to create 3/16. Okay, so 3/8 divided by 2 is actually 3/16 because we just take that bottom number and divide it by 2. Okay, so I got 3/16, 3/16, and if I'm being efficient, I'm actually going to do the same thing down here. So I'm just giving myself little tiny marks. And now I'm going to transfer those over. Okay, so using my T-square, I'm going to put my pencil on my line. I'm going to draw across. I'm going to come down again, and I'm going to draw across. All right, be careful that you're keeping your pen or pencil, in this case, straight up and down. Okay, if you start to angle or tilt anything, it could give you a little bit of an off line. So I got a little off there. I'm going to live with it. Okay, but it's something to start practicing and thinking about, is being as machine-like as possible. All right, I'm actually gonna adjust this one because it's driving me crazy. Okay, the longer you guys will do this, the more you do this, excuse me, your eyes will start to train themselves to seeing what's right and what's wrong. Okay, you'll start to notice when things are just off ever so slightly, and if you're like me, it will drive you completely insane, and you'll have to fix it. I'm just connecting these that I erased back. So just using my 6-inch ruler kind of as a mini triangle. Okay, sometimes it's just a little easier to maneuver this to do that. Okay, now I'm going to do a little bit of erasing back. So we'll erase these things back just to give us a better understanding of what this shape is. Okay, we'll do the same down here. Okay, all right. So pretty simple top and bottom view, okay? The one thing I'm missing with the top, we talked about it briefly here, is this metal thickness, okay? So this is actually going to be a hollow form, and you're going to see that thickness of material on the top, all right? This is where it gets pretty tricky, and let's see if I can do it. 1/32 of an inch is actually almost what I have for pencil thickness. So I'm going to kind of cheat just a little and eyeball this. Okay? Because I know it's really going to be tricky to mark this out, and all I needed is really just a reference. Okay? You're going to want these drawings to be as precise as you can possibly make them. All right? There's going to be times where you're going to be able to let your hair down a little bit and not worry so much. Okay, if I'm the one making this piece, I know what I'm thinking, right? If I was gonna send this to a shop to have it manufactured or built, I would have to be as precise as I possibly can, because that person isn't gonna know exactly what this piece is all about. Okay, they're not gonna understand it like I would. All right, so you can just barely see that internal void. All right, we'll probably come back and hatch that in with something that looks kind of like felt, but for now we don't really need to worry about it. All right, so the bottom view is actually just going to be square, right? Because if I flip this thing on edge, it just looks like a rectangle. One thing I want to add, and I oftentimes do this so I can understand the entire story, is invisible lines, okay? Which seems a little funny to say that, but essentially what I'm doing is I'm pretending like I could see through this object. What is the internal components? What could help me tell the story more with this, all right? So I know this metal thickness is here, and it actually turns into a void here, okay? That void can be indicated as a dashed line, okay? So if I dash this, I actually know that that isn't part of the object on the outside, that's actually internal, all right? I know I'm gonna have about a 3/16 gap here, or excuse me, a 32nd gap there. So I'll bring that up, and I'm just gonna hatch this across, okay? Clean it up so it makes a little bit more sense, but that shows us really carefully what the internal components are, okay? They're from there. Now, really basic, but if we're doing the same here, we have to follow the same rules there. So I'm actually going to draw this round, and I'm just going to hatch that in, because if I can see through this, I would see that ring body. Okay, so that's giving me that. This one down here is the same then. That ring body comes all the way through. Okay, this one comes here. Now, if I was being ultra picky, I would draw this up structure here in this view also, okay? But I get enough information from this one and this that I don't need to clutter this up, okay? So we have our front, we have our top, and we have our bottom view. All right, now that we've established these three views, we're going to branch off and we're going to do our left side here and we're going to do our right side here. Okay, we're going to leave room over in this area to do our back view, which is actually going to be just a mirror image of that. All right, in order to do that, I'm going to give myself the same 2-inch reference marks that I did from center to here. So I'm going to come over in 2, slide this over, and hit 2 over here also. And bring my triangle in. Okay. Bring that down. Bring that down. The more you do this, you'll probably get your center lines to a point where they can be really faint lines. Some people use a different hardness of lead that helps them differentiate left to right. Okay. All right. So I know from here and here, top and bottom, that this thing is 3/8 of an inch. Okay. Same with here. I can reference back to here. We're going to scratch this one out. We're going to go with that one. All right. I have all of my horizontal lines based off of this from my earlier drawing. Okay. So what I need to do is basically build in my thickness here, which is 1, 2, 3 again. 1, 2, 3. Isn't counting fun? And we're going to do the same over here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now we're going to build these lines with our our triangle. Okay. So I'm going to put that on that line and then I'm going to bring that up. I'm going to do this here. Okay. I find it really helps me get accurate lines if I make that noise. So you guys can come up with your own noise. That one's mine. Okay. See how crisp those lines are. All right. So this is starting to tell me the story of what that side view looks like. All right. So we're going to take a second and we're going to crisp this up also. Okay. I know I can get rid of some of these lines through here. And you're probably saying like, hey, Matt, why are you drawing lines and then erasing lines? Why don't you just draw the correct line? Well, that is a good question, but I find it easier during this process, which is a little ugly and rough, to leave all the lines in because they can help me finish this drawing. Okay, I can easily erase back. That's no big deal. I'm actually going to come back and go over this with a micron to make it a little bit more visible. So I'm okay with little ugly lines. Okay, so you may not agree, but I don't care because I like them. Okay, so we've spent a little bit of time crisping that up. Now what I want to do is I want to make sure that I have all my details in. All right, so I want to double check what all these lines are. Okay, so this line here is actually the top of my crest of this metal. Okay, and actually when I'm looking at that, that was the miss line that I did. So that can get you into trouble if you leave lines there. Okay, so I actually need to leave both those two lines because if I rotated this and looked at it from the side, I would see this edge and I would see this top. So it actually would appear as if it is two lines. Okay, so those two lines are going to stay put. Erase this back. I got my same two lines on this side. Okay, we're starting to look like something. Now we're going to transfer over our invisible lines next. Okay, So I'm actually going to slide this above, and I'm going to put my pencil right on the bottom of that ring. I'm going to come over to my left side, and I'm going to draw this in as a dash. I'm going to come over to my right side, and I'm going to draw that over as a dash. I'm going to shift up. I'm going to put my point back on, and I'm going to draw this over as a dash as well. Okay, so that's giving my invisible line there. I'm going to actually put in my invisible line the other way, so that internal thing. So I'm actually just going to kind of eyeball this, because it is so challenging to get to that 3/30 or that 1/32 of an inch. But this will at least give me the idea of what's happening here. Okay, so I have, oh, we're missing one line, and that's this one right here. So let's actually slide that over and back down, and we're going to bring that across. And we're going to bring this across. Okay. All right, so we got both of our side views done. All right, and oddly enough, they look exactly identical. So once again, I wouldn't have to draw this one. You know, I'm just going through the process for you. All right, so it's good practice. It tells me now if this had some sort of design on it that's different here versus there, then I would have to draw it because it's technically different. Okay. Okay, our last view we're going to work on is the back view, okay? And there's really no rhyme or reason. I could put it here or I could put it here, okay? Traditionally, I've always put it on the right side. It may be because I'm right-handed and drawing over here is a little awkward. So I'm going to just essentially draw this exact same thing right over here, okay? I'm going to bring my ruler over. I'm going to do that same 2-inch mark. I'm going to bring my triangle up, and I'm going to give myself a center line. All right. This is 1 inch wide, just like there. So I'm going to go 1 and 1. Okay. Bring my triangle back. Okay, and we have our basic layout, right? Bring our circle guide back down in. Okay, and it doesn't necessarily matter which way we do these, so I'm going to actually do the outside one first. So trying my best to line everything up with the existing lines so that I can make everything correct. Okay, so there's the 1 inch, and the 3/4 inch is actually going to go just slightly over this top line, and that gets drawn in. Okay, so that was easy peasy. Okay, next thing is I need to draw that arc. And if my memory serves me right, that was a 6-inch circle. So I'm going to make sure that I get this on this line here, and then I'm going to look at these points here and here, make sure there's just enough room for my pencil, and I'm going to draw that crest over top. Okay, this gets erased back just so we can see what we're working with again. All right, easy enough. All right, these can go away. And there we go. I'm going to import these invisible lines again. So I will put that there, and I will draw this across. Okay. Vertically, I know I can adjust that, or eyeball it at least. So I can put one here. I can put one here. And there we go. Just like that, we have all four We have all 6 views. Okay, so we have our front view, our right side, our left side, our back. Okay, we have our top view, and we have our bottom view. Our next crucial step is to actually put some dimensions on this drawing. I know what they are, but I have to pretend like I could hand this to anyone and they could understand exactly what the dimensions are. All right. In order to do that, I'm going to pick roughly an area. Okay, so I know that my dimensions will look nice off to the side here. I'm just going to come over 1/4 of an inch. Okay, and I'm going to draw a line all the way through there, all the way through there, and all the way to there. Okay, what this is this is just a way for me to understand and read the dimensions. All right, I'm going to connect, my lines across. So I'm going to put that line in, bring this down, I'm going to put this line in. I know that one is already there, which is nice. I'm just going to tidy it up a little bit. Come across there, and last but not least, this one. Okay, now this is kind of you don't have to do this step, but it's something I've gotten used to doing, and I kind of like the way it looks. But I'm going to draw just a little mark through these. Okay, and it's really easy to do with a triangle because I can just shift it to the left or the right, But this helps me understand what is a dimension line and what is part of the actual object. So it's actually quite helpful in differentiating what is what. Okay, so those tell me this is going to be my width or depth, and width or depth, this is my height. Now I could come in here and I could be really ultra specific about drawing this in really technically, but I want to make this so it's pretty easy to read, so I just draw a little circle and I do a little call out, and I call this 3/8 of an inch. Okay, now you could put in the decimals. I like to either stay with either fractions or decimals, so that is, so everything is consistent. It looks like to me that this riser here, which is really, really ultra small, is 1/32 of an inch. So if I can't connect that line, I'll do it like this. So I'm going to go 1/32, and then I'm going to give the little inch size from here to here. If I remember my drawing correctly, and let's see, this is 1 3/16. Okay, and same here. This is 3/8 of an inch. All right, we're going to do the same horizontally. I can come down here, or I could come up here. I know this and this are the same, so I don't need to do it for both. So just to make it clean and easy, I'm going to come down 1/4 of an inch again, this way. I'm going to put my pencil on that mark. I'm going to draw that across. I'm going to draw that across here and here. Okay, and then I'm going to connect down line, line, my lines. There's that noise again. Okay, those are already there. And this can come down to this one here. And last one, bam. All right, now we'll do our little pretty crosshairs. So again, I'm using my pencil as my point, and I'm bringing the triangle over to it. Be careful that you're not letting anything shift on you, just like I did there. Okay, so I have all of my dimension lines in. I know this is 3/8. I know this is 1 inch. 3/8 again, and 1 inch again. Okay? Now, there's a couple other dimensions I haven't put on here. I'm going to do a depth here, so we can come in and do one of these. We only need to do it on one, so I'm going to pick the one that's least, in the center. So I'm actually going to do just a little arrow here and here, and I'm going to bring that up with a call out, and I don't actually know this dimension, so I'm going to check it. Looks like it is right at 3/8 of an inch. So this is actually 3/8 also. Okay. The other call out I'm going to do is I'm going to do just a little quick hand drawing here, and I'm going to call that 1/32. Okay, so 32nd of an inch. So that tells me what that thickness is. You don't have to put that on every single drawing. Okay, these will all be here to reference each other. Okay, so I don't have to put this 3/8 of an inch here and so on and so forth. It's going to be able to figure these out by looking at the rest of these. Okay, last things we need to do is do diameter and radius. So this is 0.75. Okay, and this is 1 inch. Okay, and those are radiuses. Okay. I always get screwed up with radius and diameter. Basically, it's 3/4 of an inch here, and it's 1 inch there. Okay, and those are the basic dimensions that we need to put. I may put front, top, bottom, I'm going to do LS, RS, right side, and then back here. Okay, just so we get a little reference. I could write it out, but it's not all that crucial. The last crucial step in this process is making this a little easier to see. Okay, and in order to do that, I'm actually going to use a 0.3 micron, and I actually have a couple other ones here. Let's see, this one might also be a 0.3. It is. Okay, and I'm just going to tidy up some of my major lines here. All right, this is pretty quick because everything is referenced. All right, so I'm going to get into a place where I can do all my verticals here. This is the same protocol. You put this on the mark and you draw up and down. I'm going to stop this one where that radius starts. But I can do all my ups and downs. Okay, so be careful you're not, this is a 0.3, so it's a pretty tiny line. Okay, it does go over the pencil, but it's not as dark as you would imagine. Okay, it's just giving a little bit of more darkness to this so I can see this really easily. Okay, those are my verticals, and I'm actually going to use this ruler because it'll help me get a little closer, a little more precise. All right, I'm going to do it from the bottom side here. Actually, the easier way would be to rotate this. I'm all about easier ways. Okay, and we're doing basically the same thing. All right, so I can put this line down here, do the same here. Okay, depending on what your angle is, you may feel like you're flying blind, so make sure you're turning things so you can really see where your lines are. Okay, did I get them all? Down there, got these ones up here. All right, so there's all our vertical, or excuse me, all our horizontals. All right, I'm gonna leave those invisible lines because they need to be kind of a subtle different shade, and that way I understand that they're not actually part of the outside of the piece. Okay. My 1 inch radius is first. One inch radius there. Okay. It's not perfect, but it's helping us see these better. Okay. My round. Depending on what kind of pencil you use, sometimes the marker goes on a little bit better or worse. Okay. So that helps everything show up a little bit better. All right. The last step I like to do is I'll bring it over here and I'll give this a name. So we'll call this hollow ring. Okay. And I'll do a date so I know when I did it, and then I'll sign it. Okay. Just so I have a nice reference of knowing exactly when this was created. You can get as specific as putting the exact time and date on that. I think that's a little over the top, but that way you know. And I created this, so I want to make sure that I put my name on it. I just want to tidy up that little spot right there. I go wrecking it. All right.